Hello everyone, let's resume our fan game today. From the last video, the results of the poll determined that we'll have a 16:9 aspect ratio with a fixed stage. So I made the necessary modifications to the project, and here we have our wide resolution. You have more space for the stage and you can move around in the open field. Now, this is not ideal, this is from another Bomberman game, so let's make a scenario more close to Bomberman 5, and I already imported here a stage that I stretched in the image software, and here's how it looks. Much better, right? The stages are quite big, which will be kinda difficult to beat in a short time. Some stages might be longer, but let's see what we can do with it. Now, the next thing that we need for our game is tiles and collisions. The tiles we will be making our stage using a tile system. I have here on Aseprite a base stage for Bomberman game, and I have enabled here on grid settings 16:16 this square grid so that we can see each individual tile that makes the stage. So the idea is that we'll have to make these tiny blocks, and with these blocks we can build our stage tile by tile. It will be easier inside Game Maker Studio, but here you can have an idea on how it works. So we will need assistance from the community to make these tiles. The link to these files will be in the description of the video. If you want to join the project and help make the assets, you can download those and post it in the Discord server. Since we don't have our personalized tiles now, we'll be using those as placeholders. I have separated here 4 tiles and we'll start building our stage with these tiles. For the tile format, this block here cannot be used, so let's make it an X here, a red X, just to remind we that we should not use this block. This is the reference block. Okay, now let's save this file and import it to GameMaker. Back to GameMaker Studio, let's remove our background and have our black screen back again, and our character will be here. And how we will make this tile, let's make a new sprite folder. Let's create a group and name it tiles, and inside here let's make another sprite 9, and here we'll import our tiles that we made. Now on our project we have here sprites, the player sprites, and the tile sprites. Let's import it, and here we have our tile. You can ignore this for now. All we need are these 4 tiles that are already separated. Next, we'll close the sprites folder. Notice here that these are the sprites folder. It contains the image. And here is the tilesets folder. We will be creating a new tile set. This is different from the image, guys. This is a tile set, and this is a tile image. Let's put a name to it. S tile stages. This contains the image that we will use, and this contains the actual file with the tiles. So what you do with this, you put an image inside here. That's the image that we created for the tiles. And now here we have the tiles in the correct placements, right? And remember when I say that this we won't be using, see, it's not selectable. This is the reference tile. Okay, now let's close here and let's make a new tile layer. Create the new tile layer. Let's put it behind. And here, let's select our tile set 1. And here we have our tiles. And now we can build our stages as simple as this. Just click here and go building block by block. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake, but now you have the idea. Let's put a paint bucket tool. We have our floor. Now there are some missing tiles. We have this corner, but the other corner we don't have. That's because we didn't make the tile for that. So if we want to add more tiles, we just have to come here and grab the tiles that we need. Let's pick just these two and place it here. Is this correct? Yeah, I copied one line of pixels. Now this is correct. And you notice that this is just a flipped tile, right? And we don't actually need to make it. We can make it for more ease of use, right? Because we have the flip tile here, we can easily select there. But if we want, we can get these tiles and press X to flip it. This way we will save more memory and more storage in the game. And we can make the entire level with this. The same thing goes for the lower sprites. No, here is a different tile. So we will need this one. Let's add this one. And let's delete this too. Let's hit save. And we have to update it here on the game. We'll select the tile stages and let's import it back again. The sprite is added and now it's here. We can get it and use it. Now these buildings are the same. Let's check. Yeah, it's the same. But the buildings are kind of cut here. Probably because we cut them on the tiles too. Let's check. No, so the tile is cut on the top, but not cut on the bottom. We'll need another one for that. See the difference? Let's save it again. And let's import it back again. Now we can finish our room with the correct tiles. Okay, our basic room is built, but we have a lot of extra space and this is not a big stage and we'll be using a single screen stage. So we'll have to decrease the number of tiles and decrease our room. Oops, I made a mistake. Decrease the tiles and decrease the room. So our room size is this big and then we'll just decrease it by 410. And here is 230. Here it's still a bit big, but you can come here and decrease number by number until it's matching perfectly. Our viewport is also not matching, so perhaps we'll have to decrease it. No, we'll have to increase it by a few pixels. Okay, let's check it now. Seems good, right? Except for one block that I mistakenly erased here. Wait, what? Let's close it. Is okay. Somehow this block here is broken. We have a glitch, I think. But why is this happening? Let's delete this layer and delete this other layer. Let's see what happens now. Okay, probably it was a glitch with the other layers. Now it's fixed. Now we have our character in our stage, but we need the collisions. He can go out of the stage bounds, and probably he would not be able to hit other objects here. So let's make our collisions. For our collisions, we'll need to make a new block. Let's create another sprite here inside the blocks folder. And for now, let's have it like a block with a red color, red. And let's call it just as wall, because it will be a wall object. And we can put it here in the room, but actually we need to make an object for this. So let's make another object and call it wall object wall. Put our sprite inside it, and now we can put this object in the stage. Wrong layer, select the instance layer and put it here. It's a bit big, but it works for our first tests. And let's run the game, and of course our character will go right through it because there's no collision code. And the block is over the character also. That's happening because the order of the layer is of the instances. The layer of the wall is on top of the player. We have to put the player after. This way now, the player goes over it. And there is a better way how to handle this. Just create another instance layer and let's name it to walls. And this one, let's call it player. And let's put the player on top of the walls. And this way, let's bring the walls here. Let's delete it and create another wall block here. This way, all of the wall blocks will be in this layer and the player objects will be here. And every time you run the game, everything will be in the correct order. Now, how do we make the collisions? First, we need to check our sprite collision. Here we have our sprite, the idle down. And let's click here. We can see the collision mask. It's set to automatic and it's covering our sprite. You see that the image is bigger, but the collision only affects this portion. And the collision box can be shaped to anything you want. You just need to click here and put it on manual. And here you can determine the size of your collision box. It can be as small as this, or it can cover even more of the character. This is necessary to determine the collision of the objects. Let me explain better. Let's imagine this here is the wall and this is your image. As it is just an image and cannot collide with the physical wall. That's why we need to add a collision box to our image. With the collision box, our object can now be detected and collide with the wall. And you can see here that you can have one collision for this sprite and other collision for this other sprite. That's why it's important that all objects have the correct collision and origin points. If we make this collision smaller, let's say I have an image of the character ducking. So when he's ducking, the collision should be smaller, right? So you can have the two collision boxes different, and when your sprite is ducking, the collision follows that movement. But for this Bomberman game, we don't need it. So we'll be making all sprites the same collision box, and to make it even better, in the object here, you can select the collision mask. It says here the same as sprite, so it will follow the collision of the box here, of the sprite. Like if this sprite has a smaller collision, like this, when he changes to his sides sprite, the collision box will shrink or enlarge because it's configured like this. And you can have another option where the collision will be always the same as one determined sprite that we'll be selecting here as player idle down. So the collision will always be the same as this sprite, which is what we want. Even if it changes the sprite, the collision box will be the same. Now the sprite has its collision determined, and let's determine the collision of the wall, which is already correct. And how do we make the two objects collide? We'll have to go to our code, and there's two ways you can reach that result. One is by making a custom movement and collision code. For example, with this code here, if instance place x plus HSP y o wall. What's this code doing? It's detecting if there is an instance in the place of the x plus HSP, my character x, plus the HSP speed, which will be like here, or right like here. It will be detecting the front of him, right? Here is 32 units, right? So if on his instance plus 32 blocks, if there is a wall, it will set the horizontal speed to 0. So what it will do is like it will try to move here. There's no wall. It will let him move. But if in the next step, if it tries to move, there is a wall. So it won't move. His movement speed will be set to 0 and he will stop. Let's check that. I can move, and when I touch the object, he can't move anymore. His horizontal speed is set to 0. But the thing is, this collision code only detects the horizontal part. There is no vertical collision. So he can move here and go through vertically, but not horizontally. I'm blocked here. I can go through here, but I get blocked. So you need a horizontal block and a vertical block. We'll have to take the same code and put here. But instead of HSP, let's cancel this. Y plus VSP. And wait, we have to set the VSP to 0. Now we have a horizontal block and a vertical block. Let's check it. Now it's blocking horizontally and blocking vertically. I cannot go inside the object no matter what. We have our collision, and it's working pretty well. There's another collision code which is simpler, and it's called move and collide. The way this one works is that you put here your HSP and VSP and the object you want to collide, or wall. It will try to move the object based on your horizontal speed or vertical speed and collide with the O-wall object. It also works, and you don't need this entire chunk of code. Let's block it. Let's delete it. And if we run with just this line of code, we have our movement and the collision. But the thing is, with this code here, you have less flexibility. Let's say if I want to have that outcome where I can move through an object vertically but not horizontally, I cannot do this with this line of code. It will always block. And with this other line of code here, I have more flexibility. If I want to have only horizontal collisions, I can do it. So I can make a labyrinth-like stage, and I can have only some parts of the stage blocked, and you can move through other sections. So I think that for this project, we'll be going with this route of code because it's more flexible and we can tweak our code however we want. Now all we need to do is take our wall block and put it around the corners of our stage. Let's copy this, place it here, and place another one for the vertical parts. Now we have our stage edges completely blocked and the player cannot leave the stage. But it's big and it's a huge chunk of red parts, right? We don't want that. How can we make the wall image invisible? We need to click here on the wall object and we must uncheck this visible part. This way, the blocks are visible to us inside GameMaker, but not inside the game. See, the blocks are here and they're invisible. Now we reach another problem. Do you see here how he cannot move well to the top? He can move well to the bottom and to the right, but on the top, he's kind of hitting the wall too early. That's because our hitbox is too big. The player idle down is covering all of this. So let's reduce it to around half of this body. And if we test it now, let's see how it behaves. Much better, right? This is what happens inside the Bomberman games. And now we need our block objects. For the block objects, I created two more sprites as stage 1 block 1 and as stage 1 crate 1. I'm calling this crate because this block is destroyable by bombs. But it acts like a wall, so it has a difference, right? This one is not destroyable, so I call it block. This one is destroyable, so I call it crate. And I also made the objects for the block 1 and the crate 1. And we can place these objects in the walls. And we can build our level with this in mind, in the same layout of the Bomberman games. If we click and hold Alt, we can position them, and let's position all of these blocks. Now we have our stage assembled with all of the blocks, and if we run the game now, we have another problem. The player is going through the blocks but not the walls, because the collision is detecting the O wall object, remember? But this is a different object. This is O stage 1 block 1. So how can we make this object inherit the properties of the O wall object? And the answer for that is that we'll be making a parent object. Let's create a blank object here. Object. And let's call it par wall, par of parent and wall. And we will make this object son of the par wall object here. This other object will be also a son of the par wall object, and this one too will be parent of the par wall object. Now all of them are linked to the par wall object, and in the code of our player, instead of checking for collisions with O wall, let's put par wall. This way, all of the collisions with blocks related to par wall will be detected by the player. And now our game will have collision on the blocks. Now you also noticing here how it's hard to move because the collision must be perfect, right? If it's not perfectly aligned, he won't be able to move. It's hard to move around. We need to polish this movement code now. But it's working, and you can definitely see that. But it will suck to play a Bomberman game like this. And with that, we finished today's video. In the next episode, we'll be fixing that movement. If you wish to join this game project and draw the sprites for the stage, feel free to help. As I said before, the links are in the description. You can download it and send it in the Discord server and I'll add it to the project. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next episode.